we are going to start programming the enemies, but first we need a sprite and an object for each enemy. We will be having 3 enemies. So I go to Resources, Query Sprite. I'm going to call it SPR horizontal enemy. SPR horizontal enemy. I'll load a sprite. I prepare 3 sprites for my enemies. I pick the first one. We are going to be some editing. First, I want to transform, scale my enemy. So it uses, I could scale horizontal or vertical. I want to scale it horizontally. So it uses all the frame for the picture. If I'm okay with it, I just click here. And then, of course, as last time, I need to stretch the file to make it 64 by 64. That's all. We need to do the same for all our enemies' sprites. I put a name for each enemy. The first was horizontal enemy, the second vertical enemy, and the fourth one will be fourth enemy. Now I need to create an object for each enemy. So create object with the same name, but starting with obj. Obj horizontal enemy. With the sprite of the horizontal enemy, I do the same for all the objects. Obj vertical enemy. And define the same for last enemy, which is for enemy. Same names, different start. For enemy means that it would move in the 4 directions. I will program my first enemy, which will be the horizontal enemy. So I open the object menu and I add an event, the create event. The create event starts at the beginning of the game. And as you might have guessed, I'm going to give it a movement, which will be horizontal with a speed of 4. Let's make it 5 to make it harder. So at the beginning of the game, it will start moving from right to left or left to right. And then I'm going to program if the enemy collides with the wall, I need it to bounce. Reverse horizontal is like bouncing. That's all. I'm going to test it in the game. Let's put it. I put an enemy here. Oh, my pink panther is not in the appropriate place. I'm going to put a horizontal enemy. Let's say here. I'm going to test it. As we can see, the enemy is moving horizontally and bouncing with the walls. I'm going to program my next enemy, which is the vertical enemy. I start with the same, create. I'm going to give it a movement, up, down, and also 5, speed of 5. And when it collides with the wall, it should bounce but vertically. That's all for my vertical enemy. As with the other, I will test the movement. Let's put a vertical enemy, let's say here, and I test it. I can see that now I have a vertical enemy that is moving appropriately. And I finish with the 4 direction enemy. At the beginning, I put the same event, I create event. I'm going to select all the directions. When I have more than one direction, the system automatically picks one randomly. So it will start moving in any of those directions, and when it collides with the wall, I do the same. When it collides to the wall, it will take a new direction randomly. That's all for programming the enemies, and of course I'm going to test by adding all direction enemy. He will start here, and I test it. Now we have all our enemies, and we need to be very careful when trying to avoid the enemies. As you can see, enemies are not killing me, so I need to program the death of my player. To program the death of the player, I open the player and I add a new event. When the player collides with each enemy, in main 1, you add the action restart room with no effect, okay, for each enemy. If the player collides with vertical enemy, the room should restart again, and with the last enemy. When testing the game, I realize that it is not possible for the player to go past here. You see that when my player touches or collide with the enemy, the level will start. I need to adjust this enemy because it is not possible to go here. So I need to do some changes to my level and put the enemies in the appropriate place. I don't want to block the character. Let's say I put it here. And always you have to test the level to realize if you can end and reach the goal in each level. That's all. I finally save my game.